Hi, everyone, and welcome to our video concert. I'm Donna Fournier, the gambist with the ensemble, and it's my pleasure to talk with composer Mark Haggerty, longtime friend and supporter of the group. It's good to see you, Mark, even if it is on a little square on my computer screen.
Well, it's nice to see you too, and it's nice to see you in Reykjavik.
Yes, it was really fun to pick out a screen background for this interview. And we're here to celebrate and talk about your new recording and to delve into more detail about one of the pieces on the album. So I'm wondering if you would tell us the story of how the Icelandic Songs project came into being.
Gladly. So we met violinist composer Eva Engolf when Melamani was in Rio de Janeiro at a new music festival. And Eva was there as a violinist composer. And we really only had one evening to talk to her. And Tracy Richardson, co-artistic director, quickly figured out that since Ava was in New York City and we were just outside Philadelphia, we were pretty close together. And then when we all got back home, we should talk about collaboration. So Ava and her husband, Chris, came to a Melamani social event, and you were there, Donna. And we were talking about a possible collaboration. Two things came up. One was we were hearing a lot of very noisy crows, which brought up the topic of ravens, which are very important in Icelandic folklore and mythology. And you said, out of the blue, that I should write her a piece based on that. And it turned out that she had sort of an open call for scores. And so I did write that piece, and she's played it. It's called Hrafna Hugsanir, Raven Thoughts. And she's played it all over the world, but particularly in Iceland, where they especially appreciate the Raven references. So that was one strand. The other was that Tracy had hoped that there might be Baroque music from Iceland that Melamani could play. And it turned out there really wasn't, but there was a very rich body of folk music and traditional music and church music. And somebody suggested, it may have been Ava, why doesn't Melamani play some arrangements of these beautiful songs? Turns out her brother is a conductor and musician and had produced an album of lovely music of this sort. But Ava also kind of curated a list for us of interesting pieces of all different kinds. It fell to me to do the arrangements. We offered Ava that opportunity, but it fell to me. So it's something I did in a couple of weeks because it was needed quickly while on vacation out of town. It was a great pleasure to listen to this stuff and to imagine how it could fit a Baroque ensemble. And it was Melamani plus one because originally Ava joined the group and played in the first performance.
And I think you mentioned that Ava's brother put together a recording with many of the tunes that you ended up working with. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Right. And then when I learned about this recording, I managed to get a hold of a copy myself. And I found that I loved listening to it and just fell in love with the feeling of the tunes. My very favorite was this one. No wonder you fell in love with that one too.
It is
so
heartbreakingly beautiful.
beautiful. And the arrangement that you made has the most gorgeous opening of solo flute playing this tune, and it's really, really beautiful. And then it runs throughout the ensemble, just really lovely. And the sources of some of your other tunes, I'm thinking of one that's really, really folky. You can imagine somebody riding along the fields on their horse. And so, what was your decision making process when you came across this material and then needed to turn it into something else?
It was really like thinking about a suite and needing some different elements. We had a rich array of soulful, religious pieces, such as the one you just played. And I didn't think we wanted 6 songs like that. So fortunately, Ava also directed me to some just performances online of some much more secular and more active sorts of tunes. And we have 2 of those. We also have an anthem, Iceland, Fortunate Isle. I'd love to try the Icelandic, but I'm sure it'll be wrong. I'll do it anyway. They can always edit this out. Iceland farselde från. And that is a medieval tune that is sung in parallel open fifths, which is a very ancient sound, but it's a 19th century text. But I think it's the informal anthem of Iceland. So we have that. And we have a kind of a folky thing about one Olaf Lilyrose riding along the cliffs. And that kind of gets a Haydn-esque treatment, sort of a bouncy thing.
Yeah,
And but then we have something, there's a very rough-hewn tune about a raven. And it's a very old traditional song, and all the school children in Iceland know it. And that supplied our ender, and that one really has a good energy about it. I had originally written a pretty straightforward version, and Ava suggested that some of the violin figuration that I had given her in one of her violin pieces would improve the piece. And so I did as she suggested, and I think it is better, and with the idea that Ava would come back and record it with us. And she was not available, as it happens, but we were lucky to get the excellent violinist Luigi Mazzocchi, and he stepped in and played Ava's solo, and she's happy to have him do that.
Nice. So when you're arranging and composing, do you find that you're creating music for itself in the abstract, or for the people who will be playing the music, or both together? How does that work?
I don't write a lot of pieces on spec anymore. So, I probably won't write another string quartet until my more recent string quartet's already been played. And then hopefully I'm writing it for a quartet I know, right? So in general, I do know the players. Certainly with Mélomanie, it's a long and practically an intimate musical relationship. And so, yeah, it is a mix. I wanted to be very respectful of these songs. And I tried to give each one the treatment that it deserved. And that actually involves some stylistic shifts, but I think it holds together. But yes, I could not help but have Mélomanie in my ear as I wrote it. I've learned from writing for Mélomanie that if you want to get the audience's attention, give a soulful melody to Kim Rayleigh on the flute, and then they're yours from there on out.
Right. And what's really lovely when you know the players well, like you do us, that you can play to our strengths. And it is great for the music and it's great for us.
Yeah.
And are there particular challenges writing for Mélomanie's instrumentation?
Actually, those challenges are largely alleviated with the extra violin. So the challenge of Mélomanie is that you have some soft-spoken instruments, and you have to bear that in mind. And you can't always. Sometimes you just have to accept that not everybody's going to be heard at the same volume. The group is beautifully somewhat bottom-heavy with 2 bass instruments, both of which can play high, so you can get around that. But, it's an ensemble close enough to a standard Baroque ensemble that you have the sound in your ear. Maybe the challenge is how to make it new, how to do something new and different with it. And I think that's true for most of the composers who've approached Mélomanie. They've worked very hard to write both characteristically for the instruments and pull new sounds out of the ensemble.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when it came to these traditional songs, I wasn't looking for any particularly new effects. I was really trying to just get the richest and fullest and truest statement or realization of these beautiful melodies.
Mm-hmm. I remember you coming to one of our rehearsals as we were getting to know this music. And I'm wondering if you could talk about what it's like to be hearing something you've written for the first time out there in the air.
Well, it is one of the big thrills, I have to say. It's not usually surprising in the sense that it sounds the way you think it's going to sound. But you can still be very surprised by the effect that it may have. So Schoenberg got himself in some trouble with his critics by using an expression once, surprising even to me. And I know what he meant, but his critics took it to mean, oh, he doesn't even know what it sounds like when he writes it. That's not true, but you're still surprised. You're still surprised by some expressive thing that you didn't quite anticipate. Schubert was playing the piano part of his piece for mezzo-soprano and male quartet called Ständchen, which I think just means serenade. It's a beautiful piece, very simple. And he was sitting at the piano crying the first time they did it. And somebody said, Franz, what's wrong? And he said, I didn't realize it was so beautiful. so even Franz Schubert could get carried away. Mm-hmm. So hopefully that's what you experience. But yeah, it's always a thrill. There's always a pleasant surprise about how something works. And then frequently, one of the good things about working closely with an ensemble is you get a chance to fix something if you have to.
Mm-hmm.
And more often than not, working really closely with a group, you will make some adjustment.
Mm-hmm. And could you talk about what it's like to be part of the recording process?
It's interesting. It's exhausting. I'm not that good at it. I get too caught up in the music when I need to be listening very, very objectively for, was that the best take? How's the balance? Were they quite together at that point? So I try to be clinical like that and have the, with more the technical scientific approach. Fortunately, our recording engineer, Andreas Meyer, has that. He also listens very carefully for the expressive effect. So I try to fill in whatever he may not know about the piece, but it's a partnership. I wouldn't want to try to do it on my own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hard work.
Yeah.
And I'm curious as to what you're working on these days.
Well, I am right now finishing something I started a long time ago, which is winter scenes for chorus, string orchestra, and chimes or orchestral bells. It's texts of W.H. Auden, T.S. Eliot, and Wallace Stevens, poems I've known and liked for a very long time. It's something I started long ago and I'm finally finishing. It's kind of keeping me occupied while I think about the next big project, which is a group of orchestral pieces that needs some time to be thought out and planned out before I actually start writing.
Yeah, big works need big time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And is there anything else you want to mention about your work, your collaborations, your recordings?
Well, let me just say that, it's very exciting and gratifying and an honor to have been included in several of Mélomanie's recordings of new music. And it's going to be, I think, for me, kind of a landmark to have this particular recording, which is called Up to the Light, come out. And it will have these Icelandic pieces on there. To some extent, they may serve as a little bit of relief from three other new style pieces, one of which is Up to the Light, one of which is Trois Rivières, which had been previously recorded by Milomani, and one of which is Ultraviolet, which will appear on the CD Ultraviolet. But to have had the opportunity to capture the four larger works that we've done together, among probably 8 or 10 things that we've all done together, it's a wonderful thing for us all to share, I think. We've worked on this, we've worked together for so long, and to have something to show for it that I hope we're all proud of is really very sweet.
Congratulations. It's a major accomplishment, and it's been really wonderful having this collaboration and having it come to fruition in this way.
Well, thanks. It's been my pleasure, I can assure you.